Hello, we are Group 22, and our group project is on community gardens and improved parks. My name is Cindy Tatch.
My name is Ricky Koike.
I'm Danielle Gardia.
I'm Justin Huynh.
And I'm Daniela Galan.
So first thing I will talk about is introducing our group project, and fostering healthy environments pertains to creating a safe and clean environment for work, living, and our community. Our group believes in the importance of improving access to healthy foods, safe parks, recreational space, and in underserved communities. We believe that these basic necessities should be accessible to and by everyone, no matter who you are and where you live. Many underserved communities lack the resources to maintain a healthy lifestyle, and because of that, they are prone to bad health. So, about our organization, we specialize in providing help, support, and resources to underserved communities, and most importantly, we bring change to these communities. So next, I will be talking about some reported statistics. And according to a study by the US Department of Agriculture, low-income neighborhoods have half as many supermarkets as wealthy neighborhoods. And in Detroit and New Haven, produce quality is lower in low-income communities of color compared to more affluent or racially mixed neighborhoods. And in underserved communities, there are a great number of convenience stores and fast food restaurants that sell cheap, high fat, high sugar, and processed foods, and they offer very few healthy options. People who live in underserved communities usually lack the access to healthier food options, which can result in preventable health issues such as diabetes and obesity. These statistics basically show that many underserved communities don't have the same access to basic food, like necessities such as food. And continuing reported statistics, according to Robert Garcia, the executive director and council of the city project, children of color live in communities of concentrated poverty without enough places to play in parks, schools, and without access to cars or adequate transit to reach parks, schools, and fields in other neighborhoods. Safe parks and recreational spaces are not common in underserved communities because of the lack of funding. Consequently, parks are usually old, which can be very dangerous for children when playing, and unsafe parks can lead to less children playing, which can result in less social interaction within the community. Fostering healthy environment promotes improving social connectedness through community engagement and improved public parks and recreational centers. There are many elements that go into fostering a healthy environment, but equal access to healthy food options and social connectedness through improved parks is imperative. Next, Danielle will be talking about the background.
So community gardens are collaborative projects on shared open spaces where participants share in the conservation and products of the garden, including nutritious, affordable fresh fruits and vegetables. There are many ethnically diverse low-income neighborhoods with limited access to healthy foods. Developing a community garden is one of the first steps to addressing the health issue of poor access to healthful food options and increased rates of obesity in adults and children. The access and affordability to nutritious foods is a significant problem, and the goal of this project is to expand the access to make healthy foods more affordable and attainable. Developing community gardens can reduce food insecurity, improve dietary intake, and strengthen family relationships. Benefits of a community garden include giving families and individuals without land of their own the opportunity to produce food, provides access to nutritionally rich food that may be unavailable to low-income families, and it nurtures healthy bodies and minds and fosters educational opportunities for children. And now I'm going to pass it off to Daniela to speak about current data and trends.
Okay, so current data and trends is that article that Healthy People brought out of Healthy People 2020 that states that there are 4 domains that influence food insecurity. The first one is economic stability, the second one is education, the third one is healthcare, neighborhood environments, and community context. Much of the percentage was due to unemployment and disability status. However, there's also data that states that ethnicity and living environments played a significant role in the influence of food insecurity as well. Studies showed that the communities facing the most cases of food insecurity were larger among Hispanic and African Americans. So food insecurity is very prevalent in 31% of the US, and this is due to race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, which tends to be 2 of the closest trends that interrelate. A study done in Santa Barbara, California showed that the community with the most food insecurity was the low-income Latino community. Also in that community, childhood obesity was very prevalent, and it tends to increase in families who suffer from food insecurity. Also, they also had complaints that foods at supermarkets were becoming very expensive. So that is a reason why they stopped shopping at supermarkets and instead going to easier convenience stores. And then the last data states that Silicon Valley also suffers similarly to Santa Barbara about food insecurity, because there is this thing called the social turbulence, which is an unbalance between the economy in the city and the community needs. And also that is due to the cost of living rising up annually. Next, Justin will talk about the health innovations and the finances.
So I'm going to be going over health innovation, which we want to address both not only food insecurity, but we want to also address a lack of access to parks for underserved communities. And so the park will utilize a built indoor garden facility so that there can be fresh produce year-long. So we realize that the startup costs may be relatively high. However, gardens can be sustainable in the long run because you can grow your own vegetables. And so low-income residents can also be assured that the produce is fresh. Individuals and families would be limited to 5 to 10 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. And this is to kind of keep up with demand and minimize waste. The garden will be mostly run by volunteers, and however, some employees are going to be needed to keep operations smooth. The park would accept donations, canned foods, and other non-perishable goods to give out. Access to food in a park setting can also address the stigma that comes with going to food banks for families. Underserved communities or neighborhoods may lack a safe environment, so we want to address that issue with safe park standards so that people can enjoy the park and engage as a community. This means installing adequate lighting, big open spaces, and well-kept surroundings at the park. Hosting events at the park can also benefit community engagement and attendance so that the park will not remain desolate. Also, dependent on funds available, we want to promote physical activity by installing things like outdoor basketball courts and volleyball poles so that the community members have a wide array of sports available. We believe that all children deserve to run and play in open spaces and have access to play sets, including but not limited to swings and slides. And so next, I'm going to be going over financing. And we plan to finance our park through a variety of different sources, such as donations, taxes, partnerships, and events. So the first thing is we believe that the park can be enjoyed by individuals of all socioeconomic status. And so more fortunate individuals may choose to fund our park because they want to keep the park up and running. And because the park is a nonprofit, getting funding from the government or foundations is essential to keep the park up and running. We also think that events can be really helpful as a way to raise money. One example is to reach out to music artists from the community to perform live performances and charge a small fee to spectators, because oftentimes artists are willing to give back to the community. And also working with the city, syntaxes could be made, which is a syntax is a tax on things like soda, cigarettes, and alcohol. We believe that while we can lower these things, these risk factors, these consumables that lead to risk factors, we can also allocate funds towards the park with that money. And also partnering with the city is integral to the success of the park, because we can prove that the park is cost effective and it improves the social determinants of health. And next, I'm going to pass it to Ricky to talk about staffing.
So in order to develop a successful community garden, we will need to organize a meeting of interested people, for example, volunteers, form a planning committee, identify all of our resources, establish partnerships, choose a site location, and then prepare and develop the site. It would be helpful to have participants who have knowledge or experience that can help in planning or designing the garden, such as landscaping or construction. These participants may already have garden tools and materials that they are willing to share. So after choosing the site and recruiting volunteers, the next step will be working to build up the gardens, advertising around the neighborhoods and inviting more volunteers. Media advertisements will be made through community gardens, so through Instagram, Facebook, assuring that all produce and setup of the garden is safely established so that there are no health hazards in the process, and growing and cultivating the final product. I will now pass it on to Danielle, who will go over values and conclude our presentation.
The community garden will add tremendous value to the community, establishing a source of accessible, healthier foods and creating space for social interactions among community members. The community garden will provide an opportunity for the community to work together, creating a sense of commitment, responsibility, and accomplishment. It will create change and diminish the inequality that exists between lower income neighborhoods and higher income neighborhoods. The establishment of the community garden will increase the value of the community by improving its safety, increasing the walkability, and ultimately improving the health of the community. And to conclude our presentation, based on the fact that less fortunate communities tend to have difficulties in accessing healthy food and parks, we want to innovate a park that addresses both issues together. Parks can encourage physical activity, which decreases the risk factor of many chronic diseases. Families can also stop by the garden and pick out fruits and vegetables or perishable goods, which also promote good health. The ideas outlined in our presentation may be deemed as overly ambitious. However, we stand by the idea that the park will be cost effective overall because it promotes good health and community engagement. Thank you.